Hello, this is Dr. Joanna Kujawa, and I would like to welcome you to our next interview about Mary Magdalene in Provence, which is southern France, closer to Italy, and with Veronique Flayol, who is a professional tour guide. This is a slightly different video from my normal, regular videos, because as you know, I am more closely associated with Gnostic tradition, as well as I'm connecting Mary Magdalene with other goddesses from Sumer and from Babylon and from Egypt. And in fact, I created this t-shirt, as you see, Goddess News, Mary Magdalene, the priestess, as I believe that she was the initiated disciple of Jesus. At the same time, I would like to share other views on Mary Magdalene, and I know that the pilgrimages to Provence in southern France, pilgrimages associated with Mary Magdalene in southern France are very popular, and that some of our viewers may be very interested in a more devotional and more traditional, so to speak, take on Mary Magdalene than my own. And for that reason, I decided to interview Veronique Flayol. And if you are more interested in other versions of Mary Magdalene, more videos will be coming from me very soon. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Goddess News blog and channel. Today we are going to have a chat with Veronique Flayol, and this is Dr. Joanna Kujawa. And if after watching this interview you like the content, please give us a like and also subscribe to my channel, because it helps me to bring more videos and more often. And also you can check other videos. So now back to, and today actually we are going to discuss one of my favorite topics, and we have a specialist here, Veronique Flayol, and before, which basically means we are going to talk about Mary Magdalene in France, or actually Mary Magdalene and Provencal tradition, which is in southern France. So Veronique, would you please tell us something about yourself as a form of introduction?
Yes, thank you for inviting me on your channel. I'm very pleased to share with you and your followers my story. So yes, I'm living in south of France, 30 minutes far away from the grotto where Mary Magdalene spent the last 30 years of her life. Wow. I know I'm very fortunate because of that, because some people have to cross the world to come here, and I have only 30-minute drives to go there. Yes, I love Mary Magdalene since I am a child. I know her for a long time now, and I was already a friend of her before I knew the kind of woman she was, and this, in fact, thanks to my father, who transmitted his passion for her. He had a deep devotion for her, and so. Yes, since I am a child, I have this devotion too.
Oh, that's very interesting. But also, apart from this devotion that you have since your childhood, you're also a professional tour guide, right? So please give us your credentials as well.
Yes, I do my own tours. I was a professional guide. I'm lecturer licensed by the French Ministry of Culture, and I have my own tour company with vehicles, and so I am at the same time, when I do tours, and I'm specializing in spiritual tours and pilgrimages. And when I do my own tours, I drive, and of course, if the group is small, so less than no more than 8 persons. Otherwise, I rent a bus. But I do the tours, and I drive and I lead the tour as well. I can also design special tours on request, of course, because all the people who are coming to do the pilgrimage, they all have different, wishes. They want to see more this part of France or the other one. So I design, I do made to measure tours.
So we have two common interests now, because we are both very interested in Mary Magdalene, although I'm interested in a slightly different version. And I also academically publish on spiritual journeys. So we have a lot in common, in fact. So Veronique, glasses, because I have to read my questions. So
I have my glasses too.
So actually, I would like to speak with you because I'm in the process of finishing my book, and one chapter it will be about Provencal tradition and Mary Magdalene. So, you know, it's also, I'm a little bit selfish, you know, I want to fish out some information out of you because you're a specialist. So can you tell us something about the Provencal tradition? So it comes, I assume, from Provence, which is a region in southern France. Provencal tradition in Mary Magdalene, how did it start, and what is the story behind the devotion for Mary Magdalene in southern France? Because it's a very special kind of place for Mary Magdalene. So how did it start, historically speaking?
The Provencal tradition is in fact the way the church, the Latin church, explains the arrival of the companions, and among them, of course, Mary Magdalene, on our coast in Gaul, what was called Gaul at the 1st century. And so, for instance, this Provencal tradition is totally different from the Orthodox tradition, where Mary Magdalene is totally different. The Provencal tradition, note that I'm not talking about legend. It's not a legend. I'm talking about tradition, because tradition is really something that has happened, but which is really rooted in history, but which at the beginning it has been transmitted orally. So it was not written. A tradition is something not written. And then later, it has been transmitted like this through histories and through the language. But later, the church, the Latin church, formalized this story. And this story, in fact, we have official and historical resources. And we have, for instance, some books written, one by Clement of Alexandria, and another one, Clement of Alexandria, yeah, and also Eusebius, who were historians in antique times, and they all said that they would have arrived between 45, 47. It depends a little bit of the stories, but so it's before the mid of the 1st century here in Gaul.
Okay, so Veronique, just to clarify for our viewers, when we talk of they, who do you have in mind apart from Mary Magdalene? Tell us the whole story, how they arrived. So it's Mary Magdalene and who, and they arrived from where to where?
Yeah, so in fact, you know that at this time when Jesus was crucified, sorry, the place, so Palestine was under the authority of the Roman army. Mm-hmm. And of course, they were pagans, and they worshipped many gods and goddesses, and they were not on the side of the Christians. So they were in danger after Jesus' crucifixion. And the stories, the Provencal tradition tells us, in fact, that they were, after Peter was put in jail, you know, and could escape, of course, by the help of the angel in the gospel. In fact, they were taken by the Roman army, and they were thrown on a boat, on a small boat without oars and sail, like this in the Mediterranean, in the purpose, of course, to kill them. So they let them on a boat without anything, without food. And this boat, they said in the legend that in the tradition, sorry, that in fact this boat was protected by the Holy Spirit, and because of that could cross the Mediterranean Sea and arrived in Gaul, so in our lands, on a place called Les Saintes Maries de la Mer, in the region of Camargue. And this place is about a 1 hour drive from Marseille. So Marseille at this time, at the 1st century, was already a big city, making trade with many countries all around the Mediterranean Sea coast, in fact. And we know that it was probably a boat where they, in fact, they landed in Marseille, because Marseille was a famous harbor at this time already.
But when you say they, who do you mean exactly? Mary Magdalene?
Yeah, Mary Magdalene, of course, was on the boat, and also her sister, Martha. You know, Magdalene had one sister, Martha, who was on the boat, and the brother, Lazarus, who was also on the boat. They were also the most famous, in the tradition, the most famous are Maximin, so also called Maximinus. Maximinus was working for the Magdalene's family, because Magdalene's family was very wealthy. They had a business around the lake of Tiberias, and so Maximinus was working with Lazarus. And so they were, Magdalene and Maximin were very, very good friends, very close friends. So he was on the boat, and we had also Sidonius. Sidonius was the young blind man who Jesus gave back sight in the gospel. You remember this miracle of the sight. And then we had also the two Marys, Mary Salome and Mary Jacobe. And for them, the two Marys were, in fact, Virgin Mary's sisters. You know that Saint Anne, the Virgin Mary's mother, yes, married 3 times, and so each time, yes, yes. So she had these 3 daughters. And so they were Jesus' aunts, in fact. So they were also on the boat. We had also Joseph of Arimathea, which is famous, and
Jesus's body, according to the
yes,
put into rest in his family tomb, right?
Yes, that's right. So he is also the one who requested the body of Jesus to Herodes, to have the body of Jesus and to put it in his private tomb. Yes, he was very wealthy. And the tradition says that he finishes his life in England, in Glastonbury.
Oh, that's interesting. Wow. Yeah. So it's very interesting. So, okay, so they arrived in the coast of southern France, in Provence, Mary Magdalene, Martha, and the whole crew, so to speak, including Joseph of Arimathea. And then what do they do? Like, let's say it as a story, like we are making a film. We are making a film. So all of it, Mary Magdalene and her crew arrive. We are thrown into the boat. Everybody hopes they're going to die. But in France, in fact, they are very lucky because they go to a very beautiful place, southern France, right?
Yeah, south of France, but south of France at this time was also underneath the domination of the Roman soldiers. So it was difficult. So when they arrived, when they landed in Les Saintes Maries de la Mer, they decided, each of them decided to go in a different place of province of Gaul to evangelize and to deliver the gospel to the pagan, because of course this place in south of France, they were pagan and they didn't know anything about Jesus, about the resurrection, and about one unique God. And so we know that they decided to separate themselves, to go in different directions. For Maximin, for instance, he went to north to Aix-en-Provence. And Aix-en-Provence became, he became the first bishop of Aix-en-Provence. When I say bishop, it's...
Can you repeat, who was it? I'm sorry, I missed it.
Aix-en-Provence. The city, you mean? Yeah.
No. Who was the person who became first bishop?
Maximinus.
Maximinus.
Yeah. So he went and he became the first bishop. We are used to say bishop, but in fact, at this time, of course, the church was not already organized. So when I say bishop, it's more a leader of the Christian community. So he went to Aix and evangelized the place of Aix-en-Provence, who was pagan. With Sidonius also, who became when Maximin died, he became the second bishop of Aix. And then for Lazarus decided to go to Marseille, and he became the first bishop of Marseille, the founder of the Christian community in Marseille. And the two Marys, Jacobée and Salomé, they were too old to travel. And so they stayed in Les Saintes Maries de la Mer, in this place in Camargue where they landed. And we can find their relics there because they died in this place. So because they were really old to travel and to go to evangelize. So they stay in Les Saintes Maries de la Mer.
So where are the relics? In some cathedral or?
In the Church of Les Saintes Maries, we have their relics. For Mary Magdalene, it's a bit different. She did not focus on one place. In fact, she traveled a lot. She was a great traveler, and she went in different places. So she here in Provence, we say that she stays most of her time, sharing her time with Aix-en-Provence with Maximin, and also in Marseille with her brother Lazarus. So we know that she also traveled in southwest of France, in the Cathar region, and probably came back because she finishes her life, as I said, in this grotto, in this mountain, which is about 1 hour drive from Marseille. And in this grotto, she spent the last 30 years of her life when she decided to retire. And then she died, and she's buried in Saint Maximin, in the Basilica, the place where I lived. We have relics there.
So let me ask some questions. So please do not feel offended, because I come from a slightly different, narrative. So I would like you to share and explain some things also to me, because, I came more from, and this is what my book is about, from a Gnostic tradition, where she was acknowledged as Jesus's disciple, or even a prime disciple. How is she seen in the Provencal tradition? Is she seen as his disciple? Is she seen as his wife? Because we know that Margaret Starbird, in her book, The Woman with the Alabaster Jar, argued that they were married and they had a child. And I'm not necessarily supporting this version, because I said I'm actually working on with a different narrative than both either Provencal or Margaret Starbird, but who she was actually in Jesus's life according to Provencal tradition.
I have to be really honest. In our tradition, this is a tradition of the church, of the Latin church. So you imagine that they don't really follow the idea of the Gnostic Gospels, and for here in this part of France, we are people are very faithful, and we are close to Italy. Don't forget that, and we are 1 hour and a half drive far from the Italian border. So people are very faithful, and it's difficult.
You mean to the Catholic Church, right? Yeah.
To the Catholic Church, yes, to the Latin Church from Rome, and they have this idea that Mary Magdalene is a saint. So don't tell them about the wedding with Jesus or something else. For them, it's really the saint. They really their beloved saint. She's the patroness of Provence. of my city as well, and the second patroness of France. So she's really someone important, but they see her more like a saint than an ordinary woman or initiated woman, as I can say, and this is my point of view.
Yeah, this is what I wanted to say, because I do not insist on on the church accepting Gnostic Gospels, but what I'm saying is, so do you, or in Provence, is it considered, maybe I don't want to put you on the spot, but in Provence, is she considered, apart from being a saint, somebody who was somehow initiated to the teachings of Jesus, or was it kind of a random thing that she started to teach? According to the tradition.
Do you mean for the church or for the?
For the church, yeah, for the church.
Yeah, for the church, the church has a bit forgotten her real mission, which was really to. She was the first witness of the resurrection of Jesus, and this is very important.
Yeah,
and
I just, sorry for interrupting you, because I think I didn't make myself clear. How is she seen in the Provencal tradition, as an initiated woman, or not?
No, she's considered as more as the repentant sinner, and
okay.
yes, and also as the.
I think we lost the connection.
In fact,
I'm sorry, Veronique, can you repeat it, because we lost the connection for a moment, and you just froze.
Can you hear me now?
Now I can hear you, yes.
Yes. So I said that in the church, she's more considered as a repentant sinner, and also as the first evangelizer of France, because everything began here in our country, in our land, and then later expanded to Europe, north of France, through the Rhone River, of course. Okay. So she's more like this than really considered as initiated by Jesus. So it's a bit different. Yes,
it's a little bit different. Okay, so that's very interesting, because when I was doing research on the pilgrims and it's also this scholar called Anna Fedel, who does research on southern France and Mary Magdalene and the pilgrims. And in her research, mind you, I've never been there, she says that there are lots of people coming for pilgrimages who actually are very much followers of Margaret Starbert's idea with the woman with the alabaster jar, that she was Martha's sister, yes, and Lazarus' sister, but, that she came to France, as a bride. So do you have pilgrims like that as well? Or you have more
Yeah, most of my pilgrims are, yes, I agree with this idea. And I like also the idea, because I said, I think the church forgets a lot this link she could have, this very deep relationship she had with Jesus. And we can see it in many ways in the gospel, but it's a little bit forgotten and put apart by the church. And yes, of course, we have this idea of the initiated woman who shared the Jesus' teachings, of course. Yeah. And most of the people I welcome here with me are really try to discover this deep link, and they want to feel the energy of healing energies when we are at the grotto, and consider Mary Magdalene as a great healer. Yes,
as a great healer as well. That's wonderful. So it's a very interesting tradition. So I'm learning from you, because obviously it's different when somebody starts to read the scholarly papers or read Margaret Starbert and so on. So it's a little bit different. So basically you receive different people, right? Because even in our correspondence, you said that there are also people who are interested in from many different narratives. Like I come from a different narratives, from a Gnostic narrative, that do want to connect with Mary Magdalene on a spiritual level, right? So
yes, we can we can organize meditations in the forest. This forest of Saint Baume is really fabulous, and the grotto actually closed because for safety reasons.
okay.
Yes, it's closed since the beginning of last March, so for a long time now. But this place is really fabulous, and we can feel the real energies, and very soft and very feminine, because this forest of Saint Baume and this grotto is a feminine place. Before Mary Magdalene, this place was already worshipped by the pagan, and this forest was dedicated to the goddess Artemis. You know, or in Latin, the Roman goddess of Diana.
Yes.
She's the
That's very
same.
interesting. I did some research.
Yeah.
But that's very interesting how the Sphinx overlap almost in every narrative. So
Yes.
it's basically almost from a mythological point of view, and I treat myths very seriously in the way you treat traditions. You know, I believe that there's a truth there, although sometimes it's not possible to prove it factually because it's an oral tradition, right?
Yes.
But it's almost like the same narrative, but told in different age, right? Like
Yes.
here there's this divine feminine energy there, right?
Yeah, we have different layers on in this forest. Yes.
Yeah, so it's very interesting. Thank you. So I just wanted to, because I don't want to push this point. You know, I like Margaret Starbert's book, but I was not convinced. You know, so with the story, and although I think she made some interesting points. So in her story also, and I really ask you about this information, and I cannot wait so you can elaborate, you know, beyond that correspondence, because Margaret Starbert in her book says that Mary Magdalene came as, you know, the bride in exile, and that she was pregnant with a dark girl called Sara. So this is the story, right? So this is the story that lots of people love, and I actually pretty much I don't want to disagree because I want to be open with the story, but for probably completely different reasons than you know. So tell me, who do you think really Sara is? Because Sara is a real person, but was she, because in Margaret Starbert's narrative, she came on the boat with Mary Magdalene as the daughter. So what is your version? What is the Provencal version?
So, in fact, I totally agree with you before I answer to your question. But yes, as we don't have any proof of anything, in fact, if she was pregnant, if she was married or not, and if she had, so everything can be imagined, and everything is open. And I'm like you, I respect the point of view of the people who are on the side of the bride of Jesus with the baby and so on. But it is not really my point of view. But I'm open, because everything can be imagined and said, because we don't have any proof on one side or another. Yes, concerning Sara, we have different explanations, but still the same, and we don't have any real historical facts to know really who she was. And so we have two main legends to explain who was Sara, but in fact she's still an enigma for everybody, for all of us. So I have some pictures. Do you want me to? Yes. So I'm going to share my. Can I share my screen? Yeah. So yes, here we are. So this is Sara. I will put it on. Yes. Okay. So you can see that's the place where I was talking about, the city of Les Saintes Maries de la Mer, and she's buried there. We have her relics with the relics of the two saints, Marie Jacobée and Marie Salomé, the Virgin Mary's sisters. And so underneath the church, we have the crypt, And we have Sara. So for Sara, as I said, no real explanation, but two legends. We have the side of the, in fact, as a Christian legend, and the Christian legend presents Sara as an humble servant, as I said, and they said that she was on the shore of the harbor of Caesarea in Palestine when in fact, the companions were thrown on this boat without horse and sail, and she wanted to join them, and so one of the two Marys took her coat off and put the coat on the sea to make like a bridge, and so she could come into the boat and of course cross the Mediterranean, and she arrived with the companions in Camargue. That's for the side for the explanation for the Christian legend. But we have another explanation, which is the Gypsy versions. In fact, Sara is the patron saint of the Gypsies. They consider her as their Black Madonna. And we have, they explain, it's a totally different version, and they explain that Sara was already living in Camargue on these lands, and she welcomed the companions, and she was at the arrival of the boat. And that's very funny because they said that she took her coat off, put it on the sea, and of course they could disembark from this boat, and they arrived in Camargue. So it's really something totally different, but this version is my favorite, in fact. Because we can explain that, in fact, at this time, first century BC, we had some tribes called Ligurian, and these Ligurians were coming from south of Italy, and they were following the coast, and they settled different places, different settlements all along the Mediterranean coast. And we had some of this person here in Camargue and in all along the coast. And so it's probably something that can be understandable that she was already here. She's Black, and because these people were very had the dark skin and dark hairs like this, like her. So it is totally, yes, we can say that Sara was probably someone important in the tribe, the queen of the tribe, and she welcomed them when they arrived on the boat. So I have another.
I like that story. I like that story. Yes.
Yes, I like this too. And here, just for you to share, this is because every 24th of May, each year, except this one, of course, because it was very special because of the COVID, but otherwise, since 1935, in fact, we have this very special feast for the Gypsies, because she's the patron saint of the Gypsies, and they organize every 24th of May in Camargue, so in Les Saintes Maries de la Mer, a very special festival just dedicated to Sara, and so as you can see, we have we have traditional processions for her, and for one day, and we have Gypsies. It's something you must attend at least once in your life. It's really totally incredible. We have thousands and thousands of Gypsies who come to pay tribute to Sara, to their patron saint.
And is it the 24th of May, did you say?
24th of May every year, and then the 25th is it's another pilgrimage for the two Marys. So it's 2 days.
So beautiful, very beautiful.
But if you want to come, you have to book 1 year in advance, because it's
that's very good, because we are going to tell because
yes.
we are going to tell the viewers, how to do it, because it's so popular. I really like actually the second part much more, being who I am, and liking the narratives that I like. because it empowers Sara. You know, she's actually helping them, right? Because they are the lost people on the boat, and she's helping them with the coat, right? She takes her own coat, right?
Yes, that's very funny to see they all have their explanation, yes.
And this is very interesting for me now with the myths, that, you know, there are the same elements, they're just being retold differently, right? But the elements, like here, the lost people, you know, arriving in southern France, and there's this additional person, and whether she's a humble servant or whether she's actually some kind of priestess or a queen of a tribe welcoming them with the coat, it's very interesting how the myth works itself out. Look, it's a beautiful tradition. I really loved what you're saying, and thank you for clarifying it. And also, I'm not sure whether, you know, because it's very difficult to get obviously we cannot ever get a straight story. It's like sometimes people ask me, you know, do you think that Jesus went to India, you know, in his early age? And I said, well, we will never know, right? Because unless somebody finds a ticket, you know,
yes.
the same for
it would be nice.
Yeah, if they found like a boat with a ticket or something, but obviously this will never happen, right? So we have to respect the tradition and give it credence. So I read another book by Freddie Silva, who is talking about, you know, Mary Magdalene in a different context. And he said that there's another tradition, I'm not sure if you're aware of it, that also talks about Mary's child, and they call her Tomar or Tamar. Are you aware of this tradition or not? If not, we can just...
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this is probably a comparison, because this one comes from Portugal. So that's just probably...
Oh yes, yeah. No, I apologize. I don't know anything about that.
Yes, I just throw at you, you know, because I want to enjoy your presence here and your knowledge here as well. And since we are talking about the Provencal tradition, also, I want to move a little bit more to the West, which I assume is not Provence anymore, because when we are talking about the Cathar tradition, right?
Yes.
The Cathar. So was there a connection? Are you aware of any connection between Cathars and Mary Magdalene?
Yes, when I do my long journey, I drive the people to this place in southwest of France, close to the Spanish border.
Yes.
And because there is also a tradition of Mary Magdalene, which is totally different.
Yes.
And that's why also that's one of the reasons of the Qatar have been burned on the pyres, and because they were totally different. They had a total different vision of the church from the Latin church, and especially at this time, can you imagine, at the 12th and 13th century, when the Latin church was really very, very powerful, and they decided to go on the other side because they thought that the Jesus teaching was not what the Latin church at this time was teaching to the faithful, and so they decided to cut and to go in another side. And what they did not agree with the church, one of the most important thing is that, in fact, their thought was that God was really good, and it was impossible for a good God to have created this world, this physical world here where we are living, because this world was too bad. And so they have this Gnostic, that's what we call the Gnostic vision, of course. They also have a different way to consider the women. For instance, in their church, the women was equal to men, which is really amazing when you realize when you realize the moment we were in the Middle Ages, where women were totally, underneath the authority of their husband, and they couldn't speak, and they didn't have any representation in public, and so on. For the Cathar, the women were really the equal. Why? Because in fact, they thought that they had this idea spiritual idea that in fact the body, men and women are equal, because in fact it's just a question of soul. And so God put a soul in a different envelope, we can say, in a different body, either a man or a woman, but in fact the soul at the origin is the same, and that's why they consider the women equal as men. That's for one point. And to answer to your question about Mary Magdalene, they had this idea that Jesus did not really die on the cross. They didn't believe in the resurrection, but they believe more in a transmission, in the translation of the soul, like an incarnation, another incarnation. And so they think, and there is a mystery, probably you have heard the mystery of Rennes-le-Château, where we don't know, but they thought that Jesus and Mary Magdalene, of course, were not really married. We don't have any text about that, but they were very close, and she was a disciple in the way, in the proper meaning of the word. I mean, a follower, a disciple, and also from initiated, in fact, she became for them initiator, and then she is considered as someone really important in the Qatar beliefs.
Oh, fantastic. Could you, okay, fantastic, because I've done research on Cathars, and I didn't find that part, on that, but mind you, I was reading only in English, that they considered her initiated disciple. I just found that they believe that they were close, because of one of the testimony of the Cathars that were burned at the stake. So that's very interesting. I have learned something. So thank you. So this is very interesting for me. And now, and I'm sure, but for our viewers as well. And now, and especially for the viewers who are, more interested in a more traditional version of Mary Magdalene, and the tradition of Mary Magdalene in France. Would you like to tell us something about your tours and services that you offer, and especially now during this, hopefully the COVID will go away. So can you, but now, because the COVID is still here, and generally if people want to go on your tours, and I will also put a link under this video to your tours. So people, if they are interested, they can sign up and they can check it out. So the link will be under the video when I post it. So could you tell us something about it? Because I know that some people definitely will be interested, if not immediately, then in the future, when all the restrictions are basically, yes, sorry, yes, that's right, yeah.
We really hope that the situation comes to normal
I can
in the next few months, but until this could happen, yes, as all my tours have been cancelled, I was very happy, because last summer I had many people who were interested to come, and I was really happy to share with them these places I love really a lot. And so everything has been cancelled, and I had to organize my business in a different way, because I still want to share, and it's very frustrating for me to stay here and because I know that this Magdalene is a real community. We are really in a kind of sisterhood or circle. I don't know how to call it, but we feel that we are really connected. And it was really for me difficult to imagine that I can't stay like this without sharing. So I decided to work in another way, and I offer now some pilgrimages and journeys online, in fact. So I have talks and conferences and slideshow where I explain and show the places. So this is one part of what I plan for the next few months. And also, as I said to you offline, I'm also aromatherapist. And this is thanks to Mary Magdalene, because I wanted to understand how she worked with the plants, with the unctions, because of course she's called the woman with the alabaster jar. Yes. And I wanted to know what's inside.
What was inside? Right.
What kind of oil? So I studied and I passed my exam, my certification for aromatherapist. So now I do private consultation for the people who want to feel better, to how to use the essential oils, and also work with meditation and with the essential oils on the subtle bodies and on the chakras. To balance the chakras, and so for the people to feel better, because this world actually is very difficult. So it's a way to help. So I do private consultation. It's on my website. And I want also to organize some workshops, as I did before in physical presence, but online, to teach people how to do their unction. The same kind of a tribute to Mary Magdalene, to do your unction. I do some special unction, meditation unction with the plants and the essential oils she probably used for her, because I found
on your website, right? And this is on your website.
Yeah,
the people who want to take it, they can find it on your website, right?
Yeah, they can contact me. There's no problem. I will answer with pleasure.
And also, if it's fantastic, and also let's assume that all the restrictions are going to be lifted. They are going to be lifted sooner or later. So when they are lifted, what tours do you offer? So that people can plan ahead. Let's say for 2022 they can plan, right? So
yes. So we have. I can lead individual tours or group tours, as I said. So either the tour is already designed, and this is, for instance, someone like you. You have a group and you want to come, but you know exactly what you want to do. So you contact me, and I'm in charge to present you the different places, to organize your tour, and also to do the logistic with the hotels and restaurants and so on. But otherwise, I have my own tours, my own spiritual journeys, organized in different moments of the year. I have, except last year, of course, but I have always a tour on a spiritual journey over the week of Mary Magdalene, the 22nd of July, because here I am also involved in an association which is in charge to organize the Feast of Mary Magdalene. So when I do this tour, it's very special because the people can have a very close relationship with Mary Magdalene, because they come with me and they organize, they took the reliquary out of the crypt, put it on the choir. And so it's a very, it's a different way to be with Mary Magdalene, and so it's interesting. So I have this one, and also different moments of the year. For instance, this year in 21, I don't know if we could do it or not, but in autumn we'll have a fall equinox journey, so a special tour on the equinox energy linked to Mary Magdalene's energy, with meditation and creation, creativity, and yoga. workshops. So and I keep my fingers crossed.
Fantastic. So it's very interesting, because my original impression is, and actually it's a great pleasure talking to you, because especially I love talking to people who also come from a different narrative, and so we can compare the notes and have a devotional, really, a conversation, and also explanatory conversation about Mary Magdalene, how she's perceived in different places. Because when we started this, so just to summarize for our viewers, so Provencal tradition is really connected with what you call a Latin church, or the Catholic Church. And according to this tradition, Mary Magdalene and her companions and she's seen in a traditional way, right, as a penitent prostitute there, or penitent woman. And then she's thrown into the boat with her companions, and then, okay, I have a now inconsistency. So can you explain? Because some people, so there is this penitent woman, but on the other hand, she's a wealthy woman. So because you said that she came from a wealthy family. So was she a penitent wealthy woman according to Provencal tradition?
Yes, we don't forget this origins, in fact. And we have a book written by a Dominican monk at the 13th century, which is called The Golden Legend. Maybe you have heard about it. It's a book written by Jacques de Voragine. He was an Italian Dominican, and in this book, in fact, it's not only a book focused on Mary Magdalene, but it's a book about the life of the saints, and among them Mary Magdalene. And he said that she was living in a very wealthy family, because his father was in the army, and so they were really very wealthy people, and because of that, and it's my point of view, but of course it's open, I think that it is also because of that she was criticized, and she was called the woman with a bad life. And because at this time the people who were wealthy in the Jews tradition, in the Jewish society, was also very close to the Greek and Latin who were living there with the high
Empire, you mean, to the Roman Empire, right?
Yeah, yes, but the wealthy Jews were living close to the Roman and the Greek society which was there. And she probably were with these people, and that's why she was criticized, and she was called as someone with a bad life. Because in fact, at this time, if you wanted to access to knowledge, or if you wanted to study the Talmud, for instance, you had to go with men, because this society was ruled by the men. So maybe it's one of the explanation was she was so criticized because she was totally out of the frame compared to the other women at this time,
Interesting, because there are some books written about her, also fictional books, that talk about it this way, that she was basically different, and she wanted education and so on. So it's very interesting. Thank you for listening, because I just think about different narratives. But in a Provencal traditions, okay, so she's a wealthy woman, but she was considered somehow, being criticized, and penitent for this reason. And then, she arrives in southern France with her companions, and she starts to evangelize in Provence. And some of her companions, especially male companions, evangelize as well, right?
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
But these two other Marys were considered too old to do this, so they just stayed there. And the Sara was either a servant who joined them on this journey somehow by accident, or the story that we both like more, it is that she was some kind of prominent woman from the Ligurian tribe, for example, or in a gypsy tradition that was already in southern France, and she saw the boat arriving and she welcomed them, right? So this is Sara. And somehow the gypsies associate with her. Now, do we know why the gypsies associate with Sara? Do they consider her a gypsy woman?
Yes, because some of the gypsies were, in fact, we have gypsies from Egypt, because gypsies comes from Egyptian. It's a short, it's a nickname, but also some are coming from Western, Eastern Europe, so from Romania and yes, they have this feeling that Sara can be one of them, their, patron saint, of course.
Right. So we somehow claim her, right? So we somehow claim her. And just to clarify, the Provencal tradition is very different from the tradition coming from Southwest France, which is closer to the Spanish border rather than to the Italian border. And Mary Magdalene is closer to the Gnostic ideas, right? She's the initiated disciple and so on, right? And she's with some of the early Gnostics, such as Manichaeans and so on. So there actually in southern France there are two separate traditions, right? In southern France. One is the one closer to Italy, right, which is the Provencal tradition.
More faithful, yes.
Yeah, and then there is the Cathar tradition, which is in southwest of France, which is more in line with the Gnostic tradition. This is very interesting. Thank you so much for sharing your knowledge with me and with our viewers. Would you like to say something at the end? And I will definitely leave a link to your tours, so for viewers who are interested, if not this year because it's kind of up and down, then next year if you want to visit France, but also and go on a pilgrimage. But also now you have these virtual tours, right, and virtual workshops that people can take. And I saw some prices which were quite, I mean, they were not expensive, quite affordable, because I think it was 20 euro per right?
Oui. It's just, because I really want to share, so it's,
Yeah, so sorry, I'm just taking my glasses on and off because it's extremely hot in here. I'm in Brisbane in Australia, and I'm just it's very hot at the moment. So
lucky you are. We're cold here.
I think so. So would you like to close somehow, bring some kind of conclusion to your talk or to this interview on the Provencal tradition for our viewers?
Yes, what I would like to share with you is that, in fact, this Provencal tradition is just one way to explain how they come here, because we have other traditions, as you said, the Cathar one. We have also the Orthodox Church, which is the Eastern Church, which is totally different also. So it's important. I think the most important is to be open, because there is, as I said, when I welcome my pilgrims all the time, I said everybody has his own vision of Mary Magdalene, and everybody is connected in a different way. And I'm sure the way I see her and I feel her is totally different from yours. And it's important to be really open, because in fact, Mary Magdalene is at the same time unique and countless. And so she really, for me, she really represents every woman. And we can identify to her, even if we are young or old, if we are black or white, and it's really the way you see her with your heart. In fact, some people sometimes are coming and they ask me many questions. They want to have proofs, or they want to have historical facts. But it's important, of course, and I can share that with pleasure. But the most important for me is when they come, that they could feel, they really could feel her. They could be connected without any thought, or just connected with their heart, within their heart.
Which is basically the most important thing, is the spiritual connection with her, depending, regardless of what kind of tradition you come from or what kind of interpretation of Mary Magdalene you have in your heart or in your mind. Thank you, Veronique. That was a real pleasure. And once again, I want to thank you, viewers. If you like the content, please subscribe and like this video. And also, please check Veronique's website, because I will leave a link at the bottom. So thank you so much. Until next time.
Merci.